In today's episode, I have the absolute privilege of sitting down with Jonah Oliver. Now, over the past 20 years, Jonah Oliver has been one of the leading performance psychologists in Australia. Jonah has worked with professional golfers. He's worked with Olympic athletes, professional soccer teams, AFL clubs, working with elite tennis players and coaches, just to name a few. And in our conversation today, we kind of do a deep dive into some of the myths in traditional sports psychology, where we try to get away from using the techniques like distraction or replacement and suppression, and we shift more towards acceptance psychology. And Jonah will talk about his three main pillars, where he talks about it's more about positive action, it's about embracing more pressure, and really connecting to things what matters. Now listen, I know you're going to have so many great takeaways from this conversation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation with Jonah Oliver. Jonah Oliver, welcome to the Being Champions podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Jonah, real talk, man. I've been so excited all day to jump on this call with you tonight. But before we dive into our conversation, can you kind of give our listeners just a brief overview of what you do out there in Australia? I know you like to refer to it as you work on the pointy end of elite sport. But could you just quickly kind of explain to our listeners what you're doing out there as a performance psychologist in Australia?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, firstly, I'm a psychologist by training. So, went through my university degrees and, registered psychologist here in Australia, consultant around the world. I always say my job is to help people focus on the right thing at the right time.
Yeah.
I can't make you more talented. I can't make you run faster, jump higher, but I can help you focus on whatever you want to do on the biggest stage. And that's why I get to work, thankfully, in multiple Olympics and motorsport and golf, and tennis and UFC and all different fascinating settings around the world, but still just bringing the same psychological science to whatever that environment is.
Yeah, I love it. And Jonah, I think what really drew me to you is I heard a quote, or I was reading a quote from the book, The Champion Teammate. And in that book, it said, it's a quote from you, Jonah, and it says, no one has ever won a gold medal by having positive thinking, right? And with that one, Jonah, I was like, it never really like dawned on me, like, and these are the things we always tell our athletes, just think positive, or hey, we need to calm down, or hey, suppress those emotions. We got to distract ourselves. Like, we tell ourselves all these things, but what you're explaining is like, that's maybe not the right path we should go. So I was wondering if you could kind of dive into some of these myths, like, some of this traditional sports psychologists. I mean, I grew up in that environment where I was told all these things to calm down, just think positive, suppress your emotions, distract yourself, do all these things. But does that actually lead to long-term success? So I was wondering if you could kind of dive into that for a little bit.
Yeah, great question. That's the big juicy one, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
So yeah, we probably need to work through a little bit of a bit of neurobiology, like how our brain works, a little bit of the psychology of what happens in those scenarios. And then, we want to debunk some of the well-intentioned mistakes I think athletes, coaches, parents, sports psychologists make, right? So, there's many athletes out there in the world who have woken up some days, felt really confident and gone out and performed really well.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. The error we make is we go, therefore I must be confident in order to perform well the next time.
Right.
What we don't do is we don't connect when I'm confident, what's the benefit of that? It frees up my focus. It frees up my attention. I'm not focused on my anxiety. So I can then go out and just perform my skills. Yeah. So what you're really saying is, I was really focused today. Yeah. I was really consistent. I was really competent today. I went out and did what I've done in training and just transferred it into this environment. Instead, we attach the meaning around the emotional state we're in. We say, today I was really confident. Whereas really you're competent because
Yeah.
you're focused on doing that task. Now, if somehow you can magically trick your brain every single day of your life to be confident, then maybe that'll help free up your focus and you can do that again and again and again. But what we find is inevitably, if you understand the neurobiology where you've got big fear centers in your brain around the
Yeah.
amygdala and certain other areas, that they will always pulsate in moments that matter.
Yeah.
And you can't outthink your amygdala. Like it's a
Mhm.
bit like saying, make the decision right now to make your heart stop beating. Like we
Right.
can't think our heart to stop. We can't stop our lungs from breathing. So you can't stop the fear center of your brain worrying about things you care about. So
Yeah.
sometimes as we progress through a season, we're actually okay, we're feeling all right, but then we make the semi-finals or we make the finals, or for my clients, they make the Olympics or a major in the golf world or something. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, hang on. And now they've, lost their confidence. They're a little bit, anxious. They're a bit anticipatory anxiety.
Yeah.
Now, the kicker is this. If I've been reading books, speaking to my coach, speaking to my parents, and buying into that belief that I need to be calm and confident in order to perform well, and then for whatever reason I show up to this new environment and I'm not feeling that way,
Hmm.
then not being confident becomes a threat.
Right. Yeah.
This is the biggest issue. Oh no. And over breakfast, the pat on the back, come on, mate, just be confident, believe in yourself, and you're sitting
Yeah.
going, oh, but
Yeah.
I'm not, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's two things. There's what we call normal anxiety,
Hmm.
normal nerves.
Yeah.
Psychologists we call it type 1 worry. Normal nerves. I'm nervous because I'm about to go out and play a game of basketball in front of my high school and I want to perform well. I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to suck. I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself is completely normal. That is the price of entry for doing, sport in front of a crowd. But if I believe that I shouldn't be feeling nerves, I shouldn't have any doubt, worry, apprehension, or anxiety,
Hmm.
then I'm naturally going to want to go into my brain and try and change that.
Right.
Positive self-talk, positive words, deep breathing, calming down, distractions, staying on my phone, whatever. I'll do all these things trying to get rid of that discomfort. And inevitably we fail.
Yeah.
We can't, it's like saying, don't think of a red balloon. You just fail.
Yeah.
So here's the kicker. I'm already anxious.
Hmm.
And now I've got this belief I've got to do something to get rid of it. So I go inside my brain and start trying to do things to get rid of it and fail.
Yeah.
Now I'm totally panicking because I'm going, I can't calm down. I'm not calming down. I don't like these butterflies. I don't like this, and it's what we call metacognitive worry. That's
Yeah.
type 2 worry. So
Yeah.
now, whenever I see athletes who sort of, what we call choking in sport,
Hmm.
underperforming, it's not because of their anxiety.
Right.
It's because their relationship to anxiety is they see it as a bad thing that they need to get rid of. They try to get rid of it, they fail, and now they panic that they can't get rid of it. And whilst you're doing all of that, I always say, well, what aren't you focused on?
Hmm.
And obviously, in the realization of the obvious, it's like, oh yeah, I wasn't thinking about how to hit a jump shot. I wasn't thinking about how to swing a
Right.
tennis racket. I wasn't thinking
Yeah.
about how to row a boat. Like I wasn't thinking about how to, and it's like, right. So where do we go with all of that, tying it in? Underperformance in sport is due to a breakdown in focus. It's
Yeah.
not due to tough emotions, tough thoughts, adrenaline, worry, butterflies, negative thoughts, no sleep. Those things are merely the price of entry of doing cool, hard things.
Yeah.
But anytime we don't perform, it just means our focus has moved. Now, sometimes our focus might go to the crowd, might go to the coach, might go to a parent, but typically it goes internal if we believe we've got to only ever be confident and calm before we can play well.
Yeah, Joan, I love that. And I know you talk about this a lot, and it's about our brain and how we crave correlation, right? But we're
Right.
really bad at figuring out what the real cause is. And Joan, I was just literally talking to one of our high school baseball players, and he's like, Coach, I need to have a great first at bat in order for me to have a great game. And I was like, well, why did you come up with that? He's like, well, it happened 2 games ago, Coach. I smoked the first pitch. and the rest of the game I was dialed. But I was like, well, now you're correlating your first at bat with your whole outcome for the other 7 innings. So could you talk about that? Where do we struggle as far as correlation and causation?
Yeah, well, that's just part of our evolved brain, right?
Yeah,
We drink some water, we eat an apple, and we sit next to Tim, and then we get sick.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
our brain goes, I don't really want to do that experiment to find out if it was sitting next to Tim, eating the apple, or drinking that water. It's best just to not touch those three things again in
yeah,
order to stay alive. So we just correlate good and bad all the time,
yeah.
which is where superstitions come from. I wore my lucky underpants and I played well, so I better, well, there's no harm in wearing them again, and all of a
Right,
sudden, oh, then it's the lucky water bottle. Well, there's no harm in bringing that. And well, it's the lucky shoes. Well, it's no, and all of a sudden you've got 15 superstitions that, the reason you hit a baseball well is that you transfer your weight and swing the bat through the through the line of the pitch and you hit it because you've got biomechanical skill.
right.
But our brain is trying to increase the likelihood of success
Yeah,
in something that's very hard, right?
yeah.
Like I train hard, I eat well, I sleep well, I prepare, I study my notes, and I go out there and I don't perform well. It's like,
Hmm.
okay. Then I eat some blue Powerade and eat a bowl of pasta and I hit a home run. Oh, it must be the blue Powerade and the pasta.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah,
we just want to grab on anything that might increase the likelihood of playing better into the future. So it's really well intentioned, our brain,
yeah.
but it means that we're not actually looking at the causal mechanism. Why did I hit that pitch? Why did I hit that, hit a home run or whatever on that first pitch? I was really focused on the pitch. I made an
Right.
early decision of where the strike zone was. I transferred my weight. Oh, okay. So that's my biomechanics and my skill over the last 5 years of becoming better at batting.
Yeah.
So that's why you hit that ball, not because, and then when you went out there in the third innings and hit another, it wasn't because of the first innings. It's literally back to your stable competence. So
Right.
yeah, athletes are exceptionally prone to making correlational errors just because sport is so hard to know what actually predicts. Why? Because we can do the exact same thing 10 times in a row,
Hmm.
and 7 out of those 10, we don't hit a home run.
Right.
And then we think, well, what did I do differently in those other three? And we jump on something that actually had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes back to your point that where competence is a behavior, where confidence is just a feeling, right? And we're always
Right.
just seeking after that confidence. And it's not going to show up all the time. We got to increase our competence for that confidence to show up.
Yeah, right. I mean, I always use the silly, playful examples, but, you either can sing or you can't sing, sort of thing. Me at
Right.
karaoke, it doesn't matter how
Yeah.
many, how confident I'm feeling or whether I've had a
Yeah.
few beers, I still can't sing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
there's people out there who might be a bit nervous, but they can hop up and sing like an angel because they're competent. Well, sport's a bit the same. A
Yeah.
lot of my athletes are anxious. Some of them, are prone to anger. Some of them are confident. It doesn't matter where their sort of dominant personality or relationship to self-belief is.
Yeah.
Some golfers are just better than others.
Yeah. And that's the thing, Jonah. If you think about sports, right, and I know you talk about this a lot, and there's so much uncertainty, right? There's chaos, there's unpredictability, and in our brains we try to reduce that, right? And I love the story you told, I think about the Tokyo Olympics, where you keep saying like that's the price of admission. So can you share that the golden ticket story with our listeners about that, where those are the things that we actually seek out.
Yeah, right. I think I just made that up one day when I was chatting to somebody
It's a great
about,
story, Jonah.
you, certainly, and every country does some form of symbolism when you make an Olympic team. It's a
Yeah.
really amazing moment, and I've been fortunate enough to be through 5 Olympic cycles or 6 or something, and you see people fulfilling their dreams. And certainly in Australia, what they do is they give them one of those, almost like the fake checks you get when you win a golf
Yeah.
tournament. It's not the
Yeah.
real check, but they
Like
give
a
you this
plane ticket. Yeah.
this oversized plane ticket that says Tokyo Olympics and it's sponsored by our major airline.
Yeah.
And every athlete loves it, and they, post it on Instagram or social media or whatever. And it's a great moment. And then one day I was working with some of my clients getting ready for the Olympics, and they're presenting with all of those anticipatory fears, doubts, worries, and anxieties.
Yeah.
What if I get COVID? What if I get injured 2 weeks out? I've got to train really hard leading into that. I can't back off, but if I tear my hamstring, my Olympics is over. So do I train safer, but then not actually reach my peak? And, all those classic
Yeah. Yeah.
tensions, right? What happens if the Olympics get cancelled because of COVID? There was so much uncertainty.
Yeah.
Let alone what happens if I go there and don't perform, like the classic,
Right. Yeah.
12 years of work, my first Olympics, all my family, whatever. And I just said, oh, I said, I wish the Olympic marketing team that gave out those oversized tickets had just rung me before they distributed them. And
Yeah.
I just wrote on the back of the ticket, like a normal airline ticket, all the terms and conditions. Fear of underperforming, fear of
Yeah.
getting injured, fear of getting COVID, fear of the Olympics being cancelled, fear of embarrassing yourself and falling over on the track, fear
Yeah.
of, And
Yeah.
I said, if I wrote all these fears, doubts, worries, anxieties on the back of this ticket, but still stood here and said, do you want the ticket to the Olympics? Would you take it? And of course, every athlete I've ever said that to is like, well, of course I would, Jonah. It's the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I said, let's stop trying to have the ticket without the conditions.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you want to go do something hard, you're going to worry about things you care about. The price of entry of going to an Olympics, NCAA tournament, an NBA final, a Formula One race, it doesn't matter what the situation is, even just a high school basketball match. We worry about that because it's important to us, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But don't have, I want to go play basketball for my high school and I want to hit the winning jump shot and I want to feel good and help my teammates and I want to have success, but I don't want to have some anxiety the morning of the match, or I don't want to feel a little bit restless the night before I go to bed, or I
Right.
don't want to feel disappointed when I miss the shot, or I don't want to feel embarrassed if I don't get picked in the starting lineup and I've told my parents to come watch. It's like
Yeah.
all of those are just the price of entry
Yeah.
of choosing to do something really cool, hard, and challenging like sport. So I sort of use that playful analogy to say you've got to embrace all of what comes with pursuing, the challenges of sport.
Yeah, and when I heard that story, Joan, I immediately thought about, I'm a parent. My son's in third grade, and I think about our parents, and I think about Gen Z, and I think about Gen Alpha, and all the stuff that's going on, and you hear all these terms like helicopter parent or the snowplow parent, where they're trying to clear the path and make it easier for their son or daughter. But that's not what leads to success, right? It's like we have to embrace all these things, all the things that show up.
Yeah. Again, our job as a parent is to keep our kids safe
Yeah,
and nurtured and alive. Like that's
yeah,
at a very primal level.
yeah,
Unfortunately, that means we behave in ways that actually can be unintended,
yeah.
create unintended harm. I mean, that the
Hmm.
snowplow one's it's such a beautiful sort of concept, isn't it? It's like
Yeah,
I want to remove obstacles, I want to remove barriers, I want to remove pain. It's so well intentioned.
yeah,
But what do we know? Not only is it like, oh, a bit of setback's a good thing, a little bit of adversity creates a bit of character. Like we often, I think we're a bit tokenistic we say, oh yeah, no, it's not too bad, but in our brain, like, yeah, but it'd be nice if he didn't have to, or she didn't have to face too much,
right, right, yeah,
adversity. Whereas what we know from neuroscience is it's a requisite.
yeah,
It's not a nice to have. It's not a
yeah,
cool little, maybe additional little thing that it's an absolute fundamental requisite.
hmm,
As in, it's like saying, I want to get strong. Well, the requisite is you might have to do some push-ups or lift some weights.
right,
Like, I
yeah,
don't think anybody questions that.
yeah,
If you want to develop psychological, like not just skills, but actual neurobiology, like shaping the way the prefrontal, the medial prefrontal cortex, or different parts of your brain, you want to change the way that interacts with deep centers of like, amygdala and anterior
yeah,
cingulate gyrus and all these areas that, tie right into your fundamental orientation to seeing things as a challenge or a threat,
yeah,
growth mindset type
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah,
You do not develop a growth mindset from reading a book by Carol Dweck.
yeah,
It's a brilliant book and everyone should read it, but that
yeah,
is not how you get growth mindset.
yeah,
You
yeah,
get
yeah,
it, but it's like reading a book on strength and conditioning. Oh,
Yeah.
great. I read a great book on strength and conditioning. So are you stronger? No, I
No.
just know a bit more about how to get stronger,
Right.
right? So the only way we develop growth mindset and all this sort of, mental fortitude is by exposure to hard things.
Yeah.
That is not my opinion. That is purely neurobiology.
Yeah.
So when we snowplow, when we, whatever that is, oh, it's just easier if I just do it. So we reach in
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Let me
grab
just clear
whatever
it
that
out of the
other
way.
person's trying
Yeah.
to do, and we just solve it for them. We're robbing them of a moment of feeling challenged, feeling frustrated, solving something, not always succeeding. And in
Yeah.
that time, that's a bench press. That's a
Yeah.
bench press.
Yeah.
Every time they get stronger and stronger and stronger, and then they turn into wonderfully resilient, young adults and adults who go out into the world and thrive. And who cares whether they're going to be an elite athlete or not? They need to have that to be an elite athlete, and they need that to be a great functioning human being. So there's no downside. But when we let our own anxieties as a parent or a
Yeah.
coach get in the way, we jump into those rescue behaviors,
Mhm.
helicopter or snowplow, and we are literally lifting the weights for them in the gym and then
Right.
wondering why they're not strong.
Yeah. And Jonah, as I hear you talk, like, how do we actually make this shift? I know when you started off your career, you're more this traditional, going through the book and the sports psychology. Then you made the shift to more of this acceptance psychology. So
Mhm.
I know you have three pillars you typically work with. So I was wondering if we can kind of transition, talk about that. How do we make this shift from more of this traditional sports psychology to what you're going to talk about now and the three pillars that you work through with your athletes?
Yeah, sure. Well, it takes a fundamental shift in our understanding of what we're trying to pursue.
Yeah.
And, you know, the first one is I think we all need to be far more um, behaviorally orientated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what does that mean for the listener? You know, as a psychologist and as all psychologists, this is where I think I'll give you a little bit of education of the history of psychology. So people like Aaron Beck, a very famous American psychologist, so came up with cognitive behavioral therapy that really said we need to look at our thoughts and feelings before we start behaving in the right way.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas actually, if you go earlier, you had, Skinner and Pavlov and all these different, who just said humans would just change their behavior based upon what's motivating them towards food or a threat or a good thing or a bad thing, a
Yeah.
harmful thing. And really, sport is the same. Life is the same,
Yeah.
right? It's about what we do. It's not how we think and feel. Like Nike sort of had it right, you
Yeah.
know, but I wish I could work for Nike and change their motto just slightly. It's not just do it; it's do what matters. It's actually
Right. Yeah.
understanding what's important to you and your values and what you want your life to be. Otherwise, it's actually I just wake up in the morning and I go for a run because that's what I think I should do. It's like, is that important to you? And if the
Right.
answer is no, then why are you doing it, right? So it's not about positive thinking. It's about taking positive action no matter what you feel.
Yeah.
And really, it's about what do you do when you're not feeling great? That's what differentiates good from great.
Yeah.
Everyone listening to this knows that some days you wake up, you're feeling pretty good, you got the running shoes next to the bed, and you get up and you go for a run. Well, great, but that doesn't differentiate you.
Yeah.
It's what do you do when you wake up on a grey, rainy day and you're feeling a bit tired and you're not feeling motivated, and that beautiful brain of yours says, you deserve a little sleep in, you've had a
Mhm.
big week, you can make
Yeah.
it up. And it's like in that moment, your brain's trying to trick you because it doesn't want to do hard things.
Yeah.
Um, and you still get out of bed, put your shoes on, and go for a run, right? So, it's like I don't want to take this shot in the basketball game because I missed that shot earlier and
Yeah.
the score's tight. So my brain will convince me to look for my teammate to pass it off and say that was a really selfless act. No, that was
Yeah.
avoidance. You're the
Yeah.
you're the point guard. You are open.
Take
Take
the
the
shot.
shot,
Yeah.
right? So it's learning to not actually use that best friend of ours, our own thoughts and feelings that we rely on so much and we trust so much, and realize that
Yeah.
sometimes it's actually not giving me the best advice.
Yeah.
So how can I say when I'm talking to my coach about what I'm going to do in that game tomorrow? Yeah, I'm just going to be really confident with my shooting. I'm going to, back myself. I'm going to make sure that I did. No, stop. Check that language.
Yeah.
Make it much more behavioral. I'm
Yeah.
going to make sure I, drive the paint. I'm going to make sure I clean out the thing. I'm going to screen. I'm going to rebound, and I make sure that anytime I'm open outside the arc, I'm going to, look for that object, and I'm going to shoot or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure when I'm shooting, I'm going to tuck my elbow in a little bit more and snap my wrist because that's where my technique breaks down.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, now I know what you're going to do, and you didn't tell me you were or weren't going to do that. Whether you were excited, nervous, scared, confident, you just said, "That's what I'm doing. That's my role. There's my game plan."
Yeah.
So we want to debunk the mythology that you need to feel great. My guys and girls who have won world championships, won gold medals, won majors in golf tournaments, won UFC fights, are riddled with fear and anxiety and strong
Yes.
emotions because they're
Hmm.
in the moment that matters and their brain's doing what brains do,
Yeah.
but they stayed focused on the behaviors they had trained and just repeated what they'd been really competent at. So on TV, it looks like they're confident,
Yeah.
but they're competent. They're just repeating the behavior, and internally, they've got a fair bit of, music going on that might be a bit spicy.
Yeah.
You know, it's certainly not reducing stress and anxiety. Calm
Yeah.
down, deep breathe,
Yeah.
block it out. It's building capacity to embrace more.
Yes.
Now, that's where we spoke just before about exposure.
Yeah.
Like again, if you're doing some conditioning on a basketball court and you're running up and down, up and down, up and down, it's like, well, we want actually by the preseason, we want them to be able to do that for longer and faster. We want to
Yeah.
actually make them fitter. Like
Yeah.
again, every parent, every athlete, every trainer's like, yeah, of course, Jonah. I'm like, well, then why are you telling the athletes to calm down before the game? Why are you telling them to not be negative? Why
Right.
are you telling them to like we want them to be able to handle even more?
Yeah.
Because you know what happens when you make the semi-final? Oh, I feel a bit more pressure. You know what happens when you make the
Mhm.
grand final? Oh, wow, even more. You know what happens when you make that state team or that rep team? It's like, do you think my world famous athletes feel less
Right.
pressure?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they just got paid $100 million. The team's relying on them. The world's watching them on the media. Like there's a fair bit of stuff going on. So
Yeah.
my job is to help them build the capacity, just like we build physical capacity. We
Yeah.
need to expose people. How do you make somebody stronger? You make them lift heavier weights.
Yeah.
How do you make somebody psychologically have a greater capacity? You expose them to tough, hard things and don't
Yeah.
rescue them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love it.
And then, it's not about motivating, it's about doing what matters.
Yeah.
So motivation is very easy for us to jump in and provide a bit of gasoline on the fire,
Yeah.
and it'll burn bright. The kid will respond, but then
Yeah.
it burns the fire out, right? So we want that ember just to be glowing and burning, and staying on all night long. So that's
Yeah.
that intrinsic, that internal motivation. Now, what does that mean? It actually means connecting to things deeper than just goals and outcomes. Everybody can set a goal and an outcome, and you need to do it, but that is so surface. It's why do you want to climb Mount Everest?
Right.
Now, part of it will be because it'll be a cool goal to achieve. I'd like to actually have that and think that I can say, wow, I climbed Everest. But yeah, I get it. That's a cool goal. Like, great. But why?
Yeah.
And it's, well, I'm really good at mountain climbing and I've spent years getting good at it. So I'm competent. Great. So you want to do something that allows you to bring your competence to life. Awesome. Why else? Well, I think I like doing hard things. I think I like challenge. I
Yeah.
love adversity. I love, feeling really vulnerable, doing something new and novel. And all of a sudden that person has just told me a whole list of values,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, okay, so that's why just going for a snowshoe walk at Vale isn't that stimulating. You need something that's actually really hard.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to Everest. We're going to try and get that goal, but let's actually make sure we're waking up those values of challenge, perseverance, adversity, and what have you. Which means when that storm comes, instead of going, oh no, storm, that's going to stop me getting my goal. Oh, that's a bad thing. Oh, this is a
Yeah.
negative. It's like you you grit your teeth, you almost smile, and you're like, bring it on. This is why
Yeah.
I came. Let's
Yeah.
dance. You
Yeah. Yeah.
know. That's the basketball match when it's all square in overtime, and instead of I can't believe we haven't won it by now, it's like let's go. This
Yeah.
is what I want. Now I'm scared, I'm nervous, I'm unsure whether we're going to win the match, but this moment allows me to bring myself to life.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, Joan. Like when we lose sight of that why, though, if we lose sight of our purpose and our meaning, then all we do is we focus on the hard thing, right? And then that
Correct.
just takes us all the way back.
Yeah, humans don't do anything that's hard
Yeah,
unless it's in the service of something important.
yeah, 100%.
Good
Yeah,
luck
I
telling
love.
your
I
kid.
think. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, tell your kids to brush their teeth. Why?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, hey darling, your teeth are going to fall out if you don't brush your teeth. Oh, okay.
Like I'm in. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you said, I mean, we are hardwired to do hard things, but we just have to make sure we connect it to that purpose, right? And every
Correct.
season is long, and we're coming into playoff season now, and you see some of our kids start to taper off a little bit, and it's one of those like we try to use like weekly meetings to connect back to our why, connect back to our
Mhm.
North Star, just to put it back out in the front and center. So going into playoff season, hit that reset and keep rolling.
That's it. It 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 actually means you need to do far less psychology work
Right.
when you actually just connect people to things of importance.
Yeah.
I don't need to do some deep breathing, cue word, goal setting, imagery, if the house is on fire and my kids are inside it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need to go do a training course in how to kick open a door. I think my brain would somehow work out how to do it.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't care how hot or how much I get burnt. I'll I'll sacrifice my life if my kids are inside a burning building, right?
Yeah.
So, we often think we've got to get all the psychology. And when we define that word psychology, I think we're referring to our thoughts and our feelings, whereas
Yeah.
psychology is how we behave.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
100%.
we will do whatever's required if it's in the service of something important.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for us as coaches is like, how do we actually hold our kids accountable to change the behavior? Right. And it
Right.
comes back to our environment, comes back to the experience. Are we creating a psychologically safe environment where our kids can make mistakes and it's okay to make mistakes? Are we creating that pressure where they're okay with that pressure, being able to embrace more? So I think for us as coaches, it comes down to what we are doing. How are we creating the environment? How are we creating the experience and really paying attention to the behavior?
Totally. And there's some important ingredients. Yeah, the psych safety is high accountability and high psych safety
Yeah,
in equal measure. And, we want to feel that you can push people and, you know, this notion that you can't let somebody fail or you can't give feedback that they're not good at something. It's like, I can't play piano or sing. So if I
right.
sat down and tried to play piano and sing at a concert, I think it's fair that my teacher comes up and says, "Oh, Jonah, probably not today."
Yeah,
Now she's
yeah,
not saying you're a horrible person, you're no good, your self-worth is terrible. There's nothing personal about telling me whether I can or can't juggle, whether I can or can't sing. It's just
yeah,
stating the fact. Now,
yeah,
there's a bunch of kids out there who can't play basketball that well yet, or can't play hockey that well yet, or can't and that's okay. Like
yeah,
we need to
yeah,
understand that they can do other things well, and with a bit of a growth mindset, let's just get better and see where you can go. But I'm not going to lie to you for fear
right,
of you feeling a little bit of something remotely representing some negative thoughts or feelings because the data says you can't jump as high as him or her, or you can't shoot as accurately as him yet.
right. Yeah, using that word, yeah. I mean, that's a classic growth mindset. But again, like you said earlier, it's not just teaching. And I did this too, Jonah. It's like, well, here's the chart, the difference between growth mindset and fixed mindset. And I'm like, okay, cool. See y'all later. Y'all have a growth mindset now. And it doesn't work that way, right? So it's again, it comes back to us as coaches. How intentional are we? Parents, same
Yeah,
thing. How intentional? If we want to have a growth mindset, how do we
yeah,
create the environment where the behaviors actually show up?
right. That's it. That's
And
it.
then with that, Jordan, I want to be respectful of your time. So to wrap up, is there any closing thoughts you have as far as reaching peak performance, talking about your three pillars? What can you leave our coaches, our parents, just to kind of wrap up this conversation?
Yeah, great question. Normalize emotional experience.
Yeah,
Normalize. Young children will see adults, and because we're actually sometimes quite good at staying behaviorally consistent,
yeah,
even when we're having some tough internal experience. So, what do I mean? I might be feeling a bit flat, but I still get up and go to work. I might be feeling anxious before I go to present to the board, but I'm still composed. So my children might think dad never feels anxiety. He doesn't have any self-doubt. There must be something wrong with me because I'm about to go play some basketball and I'm feeling really nervous, you know, versus saying, oh, wow, I get nervous all the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
tomorrow I've got a big presentation and I've been up thinking about it. I didn't sleep well the night before. And yeah, that's really, really, oh, when I was in high school, wow, I struggled to eat my breakfast before a game. Oh, yeah, and just normalize.
Yeah.
Because then they see you as their hero, certainly as their guide of behavioral stability, and they realize it's not because of your internal state. And matter of
Yep.
fact, it's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with you for thinking or feeling with some degree of apprehension or nerves or doubt. Rather, once we set them free from the burden
Yep.
of worrying about their worry and just be okay at saying, hey, we worry about things we care about. That's normal. But what
Yeah.
do you want to do today?
Hmm.
Not how do you want to think and feel. So the biggest gift coaches and parents can do is just to help your children, help your students just understand the normal neurobiology of pressure.
Yeah.
When those kids go for a run and they go, oh, my legs are really jelly and hurting, you go,
Yeah.
oh, that's lactic acid. That's what happens when you
Yeah.
run
That's,
fast. It's
yeah.
okay. It's normal. That's good. It means you ran
Yeah.
fast,
Yeah.
right? But then they go, oh, I'm feeling a bit nervous before the game. Oh, hey, you shouldn't feel that. No, that's wrong. Get rid of it. You shouldn't believe that. What? It
Yeah.
is stain. Once we let them know that lactic acid is physiologically normal, anxiety is psychophysiologically normal, now I can bring my attention back to just doing what I want to do and go out there and, shape them to go with a bit of a challenge slash growth mindset or whatever that is, and away you go. So yeah, for me, it's debunking the myth that you need to feel good and think good before you can perform well.
I love it. It's just normalizing the human experience, right? And
That's
I
it.
think just even us as coaches and parents having that mindset, I mean, it's going to help us go from that protecting mode where it's just like, no, that's just part of being human. And I think that's the greatest lesson.
Honestly, if your audience are parents, particularly as well, like on a very serious note, I don't want to end on too much of a serious note, but young children young adolescents are having this disproportionate amount of mental health challenges,
Yeah. Yeah.
anxiety
Anxiety.
disorders,
Yeah.
depression, self-esteem issues, and so much of it isn't because they actually have any real extrinsic or even internal error in their neurochemistry or whatever they're being told by a doctor. It is because of their relationship to anxiety. They've been
Yeah.
told, don't
Yeah.
worry, believe in yourself, be confident, negative thoughts are bad, you've always got to be positive. And that means that then when I inevitably feel those things in sport or in school or in exams or in my personal life or in my first job I get, whatever the situation, then
Yeah.
my brain freaks out that I'm feeling these stuff, and then I end up going to a doctor and getting medication when your brain's just doing what it normally should do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's actually the best point to end on there, Jonah. Might have been a little serious, but honestly, that's something we all needed, though.
Well, let me actually add this then.
Yeah,
This is why sport is so fantastic.
yeah, yeah,
It is the safest environment. There's rules, there's officials,
yeah,
it's the safest environment to give your children the gift of what the world's going to bring them.
yeah,
You can fail safely. You can learn. You can be challenged. You can learn that I'm not the best at everything that I do. You can feel amazing when you succeed, and you can feel the pain of disappointment when you don't. You can do all these awesome psychological experiences in a
yeah,
controlled, safe way. And that sets you up for life. That's why student athletes are so great at transitioning into the employment sector, because
yeah,
most employees go, I know what you've been exposed to. You've had a bit
yeah,
of a fast track into the real world, which is why I say to parents and coaches, get out of the way.
yeah, yeah,
Let them have those experiences, because we're setting
yeah.
them up to either be a great athlete or certainly a great human. So there's no downside.
Yeah, I love, and that's why they say sports is the greatest life teacher. And again, we just have to do it the right way. Get out of the way and let our
Yeah.
kids fail, experience these things, and grow through it, and just get better, just becoming better version of themselves. So, Jonah, with that, man, I again when I woke up this morning, man, I was so fired up. I was telling everyone, I was like, oh, I get to meet Jonah Oliver today. So. I knew the value you're going to add today. I'm leaving a better coach today, so I can't thank you enough, Jonah, for being on the Being Champions podcast.
Good on you for making the podcast happen. Appreciate being here.
All right, man. We'll catch up soon then.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks.
See you, mate.
Hey, I hope you all enjoyed that conversation with Jonah. I'm sitting here with a notebook full of notes, and I think my biggest takeaway is what Jonah was talking about at the end. It's how we can normalize the human experience. It's not about suppressing all these things. It's not about getting rid of anxiety. It's not about getting rid of the pressure and the stress of sports or just the pressure of life. What it's about is accepting it and normalizing that experience and understanding like these things are going to show up in our narrative. Like Jonah was saying, like that's the price of admission. Anxiety, stress, pressure, all these things are going to show up in our lives. But what we need to do as coaches, as leaders, as parents is we need to normalize this experience for our athletes in order for them to reach their peak performance, to reach the best versions of themselves, and to continue to grow every single day. So for me, I mean, that big takeaway was just normalize this human experience. That is how we're going to reach our best version of ourselves. So I hope you all enjoyed this conversation with Jonah. Again, I can't thank you all enough for always tuning into the Being Champions podcast, and I hope you tune in next week. Thanks.